I have Anil Padmanabhan joining me. Anil, I want to keep the visuals full screen on air, and if we can just start hearing from you about what your sense is about what's happening, and your takeaway, big takeaway from the Prime Minister's speech here.
The big takeaway, Aditi, from a few big takeaways. I think the biggest takeaway the PM has left us with is that India's best is yet to come, and he has explained by the next 25 years will be the most transformative
Yeah.
phase in terms of societal development. Then, of course, the second big takeaway is the means to this end, and he's taken the battle of anti-corruption to a national agenda. Saying it from the ramparts of Red Fort is
Yeah.
so huge significance because it is not just a political speech; it's a strategic imperative. If you recall, in
And he also
2015,
brought about nepotism in that bhai bhatijawad. So it's not just corruption, it's also nepotism. So both these issues on which he his the BJP had been going forward, and attacking their opponents. Now you're saying that's become a part of the strategy going forward for the
yeah, it's
development of
actually
India.
exactly. It's now, if you recall, in 2015, he talked about toilets, much to the
Yes.
shock of a lot of people, and he made it into a campaign, and it became a development issue since then. So, similarly, this anti-corruption agenda in two forms, of course, like you pointed out, the family, the whole thing about how family begets family, and he was very careful in saying that it's not just politics, it's also in all institutions. There's
Right.
legal, etc., in various strands, and he has linked it to the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost, again, you should, the link very important to the third
I,
takeaway, which is aspirations. And he says that New India is extremely aspirational and restless for the fruits of the development. So they are not willing to wait. So by linking this anti-corruption agenda to an opportunity cost, he's linking aspirations also to them. And of course, finally, I would say is focus on women. It's again
yeah.
now got a major push, and I think, rest assured, this government is going to come out with several initiatives on
Right.
empowerment of women.
In terms of this being the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of freedom being celebrated, and the year-long celebrations which the central government had planned. I don't know. I mean, I found some differences, and I'll of course speak to you about them later. But did you find any difference between his speech today vis-a-vis his speeches for the last 8 times from the Red Fort?
Oh, Aditi, of course, because this is a very important milestone in the history of India. So he has had to capture 75 years of independence, and he did that. He connected the past, present, and future. The entire speech was to recall the past and inspire the future. So yes, the speech is very different from the previous
Yeah.
essays of his, and it set out the context for the next 25 years. So this actually you should see is as India at 2047.
Right, India at 2047. And he, I think, underlined it way too many times during his speech that these next 25 years are the key, and that we need to see a developed India. And that's the clarion call which Prime Minister Modi gave today from the ramparts of the Red Fort, that we need to see a developed India by 2047 and fulfill the aspirations, the dreams of all those people who fought hard for our independence in 1947, of course, in the run up to actually gaining independence from the British in 1947. I also want to talk to you about Anil, his focus on the Panch Pran, the 5 pledges which he said, and shaking off the yoke of colonialism. He, spoke about he spoke about consistently that we should not remain shackled anymore. What do you think he was referring to?
Aditi, he was, if you noticed, he slipped in a line saying that you don't need to seek validation from anybody. So
Yes.
basically, he's saying that Indians need self belief. So if you look at the constant censures that come India's way from the world or
Yeah.
world diplomacy or everybody, the he's saying that you have to stop paying attention to that. This is a very big statement he's making that you should have self belief as a nation and believe in yourselves, which is,
True.
I mean, as a prime minister of the country, is expected to give that leadership call.
Right. What is your sense of the five pledges and this? I think this that India should be developed in your lifetime or in our lifetime. It should not be an aspirational thing that acha hoga hum kar rahe hain dheere dheere. I think he's just made it all more immediate that everything has to happen now as of yesterday, and the onus he's put on each one of the India's citizens, including you and me.
Oh, absolutely. He's made, actually, if you look at 8 years of his governance, his entire game plan has been to increase the stakeholders in the country and in the economy. So, if you look at all the social welfare schemes that he has used direct benefit transfer to impact people, particularly let's look at the last 2 years where 800 million people have been fed free food grains using
Hmm.
the the DBT scheme. Now that he's added all of them as stakeholders, what in Hindi they call labhartis. So
Right.
these beneficiaries are now stakeholders. Now he's saying that you need to become an even deeper stakeholder in this country to achieve the next 25 years. So going back to the five pledges, what is the first pledge he says? That in 2047, India has to be a developed country. So
Right.
you think nothing else will make the cut. It has to become developed. See, and then if you in the build up to it, he talked about dreaming big. He said, unless you dream big, you won't do big. So he has put the first target as 2047. India will be a developed world, a developed country. In any case, we are already among the top five nations in the world, but economically. But issue is on per capita income terms, we are way behind. So he's
And also
obviously
human
talking.
development indicators, which a lot of people keep talking about when they have to sort of put down or at least find fault with what's going on with the economy.
No, 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 Aditi, that's also a reality. I mean, yes, critics may have their agenda, but it's a reality that in
But
per capita
absolutely,
incomes,
human
we are
development,
struggling
yeah,
in
exactly.
human development indicator. But that's, it's a legacy issue of enormous neglect of 7 decades, which is now cumulatively hitting us when you're looking to reach the next stage of growth. But going to the second pledge of his, it is talking about the colonial mindset, which we just
Yes,
alluded to, but primarily talking of self belief. So he's put a goal, he's then giving you the tools to reach it. One is self belief, second is pride over your heritage. He says,
right.
don't discredit your heritage. That can give you the inspiration and probably the tools to achieve things, which is alluding to conservation of nature. If you look at India, our tribal community in particular, they revere nature and they protect it with literally with their lives. So he's talking about draw inspiration from that kind of heritage to look and create a blueprint for a new India. Then he's talking about unity in diversity, and this is very important because he in again in he gave an example about language. He says there is no
Yes,
language, no Indian language which is inferior. Every language is equal, which are 22 languages. And you are aware that the government has just launched the project called Bhashini, which is to
yes,
bring the internet and content to people in regional languages. So his
yes,
emphasis on language and the strategy to bring content in regional languages is a game changer. Finally, he talks about citizen commitment, which is what you were talking about as a stakeholder.
yeah,
So he says that even the prime minister is not above this. So if you notice, he makes these symbolic gestures frequently. When the recent tunnel was inaugurated in Delhi at Pragati Maidan, he took a walk and then he found a scrap of paper and he picked it up, and which is a signal on Swachh Bharat. So
duties of the
he's a
citizen. Yeah,
master at this kind of using symbolic actions to convey his agenda and like walking the talk, as it were. So,
Hmm.
in net, he has set out India's 25-year development strategy for us today.
Right. And I'm not going to take much more of your time. And I think, but I will have to ask you this one last question. This article that I saw that you'd written this morning, Digital Swaraj is our birthright and we shall have it. And the Prime Minister spoke at length about Digital India dream. And he said that that dream passes through India's villages. What is your take on that, given your very strong views on how we are going to get digital Swaraj, and we have to, because that seems to be a game changer as far as your piece. I rarely briefly glanced through it. That seemed to suggest that.
Thank you for flagging that, Aditi. I think it's hugely important because what India has done, say, in the last 12 years, or rather 13 years since Aadhaar was launched, is to create a new digital economy framework which have two very broad themes from it. One, it is based on an open digital architecture, which is unlike, say, a Facebook, Amazon, which are closed loop systems. So it's an
Hmm.
open digital architecture. Like, let me give the example of UPI, which is our unified payments interface. It's an open rail on which you can build anything. Which is exactly why I can transact with you peer to peer or peer to business using any wallet, any bank account, because that common rail is there. So the architecture that India has created for everything, whether it's health, whether it is one nation, one ration card, whether it is now the health stack that's coming, any one of them, or ONDC, which is a new big disruption on the cards on commerce, all of them are based on this open digital architecture, which is actually going to be a game changer because it can be emulated internationally. So increasingly, global attention is coming to it. Second, it has been built to scale. So the entire onboarding cost, which is why Aadhaar is a hugely significant story in India. Aadhaar enabled identity, democratized identity. Minute it democratized identity. Otherwise, if you recall, for us to even get a passport or driving license, we needed an officer stamp to certify our address. All that is changed with Aadhaar. So Aadhaar democratized identity, provided the on low and with combined with low onboarding costs. So your KYC, for example, has happened. It can happen online. So
Hmm.
today, imagine India when at the 2010, about 43 crore people didn't have a bank account. Today they have a bank account thanks to Aadhaar.
Absolutely.
So the digital economy that India is building is extremely unique, is built to scale, and it is built to deliver projects of public good. So just to give you one
Right.
example to make my point, it's the during COVID, money had to be transferred due to people to mitigate the job loss or whatever, the kind of when social distancing happened. So 200 million people received direct transfers into their bank account. And the PM mentioned, collateral gain for this has been the savings to the exchequer. Because I
Hmm.
found an economic GPS for every beneficiary, linking their Aadhaar, mobile, and their bank account, I
Yeah,
could
the
make sure the
Holy
money went
Trinity.
only to them.
Correct.
So till March 21, 2.28 trillion has been saved to the national exchequer. So your
Wow.
money saved is money earned. So,
Right.
so that is why India's new digital economy, the more you say, the better, because it's a story that should be told and retold.
Right. And it's this holy trinity of JAM or Jandhan account, Aadhaar cards, and of course your mobile phones that is making it all sort of come alive. Thank you so much, Anil, for joining us for this broadcast. Thank you, viewers, for watching this. We will keep coming back to you with more. I think now's the time for everyone to just sit back, relax during the rest of the day. Today is a public holiday for most of us. For most of you, I'm working, but it's I relax, but yes, also think about a lot of things that the Prime Minister said, and how the next 25 years really are crucial as far as India is concerned to achieve the dreams of our freedom fighters. That's what the Prime Minister said, and that's what I'll leave you that with that thought. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. Thanks.